Hello and welcome. My name is Yojimbo Blade and we're going to be talking about TV mode in Zenless and why it matters. What is TV mode? TV mode is the gameplay in Zenless Zone Zero that uses the H.D.D system to explore hollows. It's a dungeon exploration puzzle mode-ish. Why do I have two periods there? Whatever. It has different gameplay from the action combat. Most of what you've seen from Zenless now is just, here's a bunch of action combat, but TV mode is very different. Because of that, it has some really cool aspects. But the problem is, those aspects were not implemented very well at the launch of the game. In my personal opinion, TV mode has some things that I really like, and some things that I really dislike. Some people would go out of their way to say TV mode was terrible and unredeemable. I think TV mode was salvageable, but there were flaws with how it was implemented. If those implementations were fixed, then I think TV mode is a really good, worthwhile experience. Before we talk more about TV mode, let's talk a bit more about how TV mode can be useful. It's useful when it's used correctly, obviously. If you just use it haphazardly, it's going to be awful, just like most things. It's useful for keeping the proxy free from danger. When I say proxy, I'm referring to Bell and Wise. Turns out, being in a hollow is very dangerous and probably going to get you killed. So what if we could invent a system where we could explore hollows without having to put our lives in immediate danger? Doesn't that sound kind of interesting? Other people would still need to be in the hollow, but like we could go without endangering our lives specifically. And I will talk more about that a bit later. It's useful for keeping their identity a secret. If we want to be a technically illegal proxy, an off-the-books proxy, having a method to do that secretly turns out to be really useful. It's almost like we don't want to run around with everyone knowing our secret identity. Wouldn't that be weird? Yeah. Very on the nose with that one. It's also useful to engage the casual audience. When I say casual, that's not like a negative stigma. That is just the audience that is not spending 5 hours grinding Deadly Assault. They're the audience that says, oh man, this character looks cool. Oh, this story looks cool. Oh, this gameplay looks neat. I want to try it out. That's perfectly fine. It's also useful for storytelling. These last two are probably the most important aspects of it. And let's talk a bit more about how it engages the player base. Many players like the aesthetic of Zenless. Turns out people like how this game looks. They like a lot of different aspects of it. They like the characters. They like their stories as well. If you've played some agent stories, you would know. I think the majority of them are really good. I have not played an agent story where I thought, yo, this is awful, this is terrible, what a waste of my time. I don't think I've played one like that yet. Turns out they also like their personalities and their relationships. Turns out characters interacting with each other, them having like a meaningful relationship with the proxy. Turns out people really like that. They also think the game looks cool, especially at launch. People thought, yo, this game has a really cool art style. The city itself is cool. The cinematics, the overall visual design looks cool. If you thought this game looked like Persona 5, that's because in the early beta, I think someone data mined one of the pictures of the black and white and red pictures of Makoto from Persona 5 was just pasted into the game. And so they used that visual design. They also thought the action combat looks really cool. Like, oh man, these characters are moving in a cool way. This looks neat. This looks interesting. Now, this might sound weird because the entire time I've been talking about how TV mode engages the player base, but I haven't talked about TV mode yet. Here's the problem though. A lot of those players don't love Zenless's action combat's endgame. They don't love it. Currently, for a lot of players, the endgame can feel a bit too demanding, a bit too exhausting. If you've ever played endgame, you would know endgame can be a bit taxing if you do it a bit too much. It's a bit too repetitive, especially in the tower. It's the same bosses over and over and over again. It's just a bit too much. Now it feels a bit too restrictive. Earlier in the game lifespan, these modes felt really broad and expansive because you could really use anyone in clear, I don't want to say comfortably, but you could force pretty much any team that was halfway decent. Now those teams don't really work. Before, people used to play Kaleda and Ben unironically. They would say, oh my gosh, look at this team is so fun. When is the last time you've seen people actually use Ben and Kaleda in the current endgame content? Ben and Kaleda specifically don't really work well together, and the game has gone a direction, so it's not worth playing. which kind of stinks because like they put the time and effort to make them have team up moves, but like what's the point? You're never using them together. And the other thing is we already have a ton of action combat endgame. We have threshold simulation. We have various battle towers they roll out. We have deadly assault. We have Shiyu defense. We have, does Lost Void count? I'm gonna count Lost Void because that's pretty much action combat mixed in with some roguelike stuff. So we already have a lot of action combat endgame, but a lot of players don't play the tower. They don't play threshold simulation. They don't play deadly assault. They don't play Shiyu defense. And that's fine for the record, because again, these modes can feel like a bit too much for those players. And that includes me. If you know me, you know I'm the guy who soloed the tower with Billy twice. I am an endgame player, and there are times when I log into Zenless and I say, hey, what is there to do in this game? And the answer is, play Deadly Assault, play the tower, play Shiyu Defense. And I go, oh, yeah, I'm not in the mood to do any of those. So I log in for 5 minutes and I log out. Doesn't that sound odd? The guy who enjoys playing Zenless's endgame is like, yeah, there are times when I don't want to play the endgame. Like, that's just a normal thing. I wish there was more for me to do in this game. TV mode gives those players that don't love that endgame action combat, it gives those players something to do. For the record, I'm not saying like ZZZ should have like infinite content for everyone. Like, that's not reasonable. I'm just trying to say, give a crumb to the guys who aren't grinding Shiyu defense and deadly assault for 5 hours. To clarify, the devs do a bunch of stuff for these kinds of players already. They have added a lot more social aspects into the game. Around 1.4, I think, they let you walk around with other agents. They let you invite them on specific, I guess it's dates, but they were less romantically coded than they are now. And they even added outposts. Hey, you want to hang out with your friends? You can do it in the game. That is so casually coded. The endgame players weren't asking for a worse version of Discord in the game. Endgame players weren't asking for that. That's something for people who are like, yeah, I'll hop in for 5 minutes, hang out with my buddies. They have added a lot of limited time and permanent event modes. Some of them are from story events. So I think the 2.6 event, I think it's one of the permanent ones. And those include Yidhari's story is the creature commander one where you control the creatures to fight for you instead of fighting yourself. And sometimes they'll have some mini games for each patch, just in case you were around. You don't have to play them, but they're pretty quick. They also added co-op. Now, some people want co-op to be much more competitive. I think that is a bad idea. I think the worst thing co-op could be is another mode for only competitive players. If the only reasonable way to play co-op is to be hyper competitive, I think that will turn away a lot of players. Turns out, a hard mode cannot be made easy, but an easy mode can always be made harder. If you watched a couple months ago, if you watched me play with Kete and R2, and even with Flossing on You and Soul XS, we could like make our builds worse to make fights harder. That is a thing you can do. When we use the best things, we beat it so quickly. They were like, you know what? We need to nerf ourselves. We need to nerf ourselves to make this more fun. And that was incredible. Some of the funnest things was using Miyabi, but not being allowed to use your enhanced basics. That was insufferable. My mind is screaming at me to hold basic, and I can't. And for all of these things, TV mode can also very easily engage players, assuming it's used correctly. Obviously, that's the disclaimer for all of these things. So now let's talk about the storytelling.
My heart feels lighter.
Lighter? Oh my gosh, he's here? Hey, how's it going? My name's Lighter. I'm also here. Lighter.
I'm here.
So here you are. Here's Lighter. TV mode shows how the proxy is different from agents. We are not fighters. We're not going to the hollow, busting people's butts. We're not fighting evil in the hollows, but we're still extremely valuable. TV mode is also abstract. That might sound odd. How can something being abstract be a good thing for storytelling? Shouldn't you show the player stuff? Well, yes, but in the story, we are literally separated from the hollows. When we are using EOS to walk through the hollows, we are not there. So the interface for us being in the hollows looks very different because we're not there. We're sort of there, we can still see everything going on. But in the gameplay, it feels like you are literally separated from the hollow. And that helps give hollows a sense of mystique and intrigue. And we, the proxy, can see hollows very differently from others. The story basically presents us as having special powers to navigate hollows like no one else can. And TV mode is really good at doing that. It literally puts us in a map where we can see each pathway. Now, we don't always know what's at the end of each pathway, but the game is showing us, it's not just saying, oh, we have special powers and we can make magical stuff happen. No, it's saying we are really good navigators for this treacherous environment, and here's how. That's really neat. And this type of abstract storytelling allows for mystery and horror with less effort. Now, that might sound weird, like you're saying the game should have less effort in it. No, it makes some aspects of abstract storytelling much easier to do. And the easiest example of this is audio dramas. Chat, when's the last time you've listened to an audio drama? For the record, I am not a huge Sonic fan, but I do enjoy the Chaotix group. I think they're a cool little side group in the Sonic lore. Recently, the Sonic team had enough funding to do what's called the Chaotix case files. This is on YouTube, but there's nothing visually interesting about them. It's literally one screen for 10-ish minutes. You might think, what? How can they tell an interesting story when there's literally nothing to show? Turns out when you're not showing anything, every sound you make is incredibly important. You can hear the sounds of characters walking around, of people sighing and breathing, of someone like eating, munching on food, their accessories making noise.
Guys! There's action at the newsstand, and it's about our old pal, Knuckles.
Just slip in here and snag a copy. Alright, this is what the article says.
Like, everything in the story that makes sound is incredibly pronounced because there is nothing to aid in the visual storytelling. That sounds like a weird tangent, but tying this back to Zenless, turns out when you're not seeing every action that characters perform, you can emphasize particular parts of the writing where things look disgusting and horrifying, because you have a literal separation from being able to see it. You have to imagine it for yourself. So you can write about how, oh my gosh, the ethereals are terrifying, disgusting, alien-like creatures. They don't even move in an organic way. They're gross, they're infectious, they're like a virus invading our homeland. Like, you can make a really cool horror/mystery story with that without showing any of it. And again, I have to stress this. This is with the understanding that TV mode is implemented well. Obviously, the storytelling won't matter if you're really bad at storytelling. It's also good for environmental storytelling. I touched on this a little bit, but hollows are mazes. And that's not like oh, you can kind of get lost. No, the lore of hollows is that if you do not know the way, you will get lost and die. They constantly change. New rifts open and I spelled open wrong. I'll fix that in editing. In ether activity, it's basically, it fluctuates. It's like sometimes there are low tides and high tides. Sometimes ether activity is low and it's relatively safe, but still dangerous. And sometimes you gotta be careful because it can spike up. So you have to be very careful that you don't go too far in. You gotta always have an escape plan ready. Now, obviously the exceptions for this are stable hollows. The Lemnium hollow that is close to Wi-Fi Peninsula. Ethereals will still pop up every now and then, but that place isn't constantly changing. On one hand, I'm sure there's some like lore reason behind this. I think the end game reason is we don't want to have an excuse of like why this hollow isn't changing, so we'll just say it's stable. And I'm fine with that. You can tell interesting stories with a hollow that is relatively stable. That's fine. And as a proxy, we can see all of these changes and predict them for people. Because it turns out being able to view the world differently in hollows as a guide is incredibly useful detail. As proxies, what do? We take on commissions for people in the hollows. Turns out most people don't want to go into the radiation zone that's going to kill them. And that makes it a convenient excuse for side quests. Hey, I lost my thing, can you go get it? In most games, it's like you run across the street and you collect people's groceries. It's like, why are you sending me out to collect groceries? Do it yourself. But in this game, it's like, hey, my daughter dropped her stuffed bear, and that's her favorite stuffed bear. And to get it, I would have to like risk radiation poisoning. Could you go get it for me? And you say, oh, that's a good reason to hire people to do things. Can I hire you to go into the active military war zone for me? It's like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Now, here's a quick question for the chat and audience. When was the last time ZZZ made a meaningful and interesting side quest storyline? And I'm not talking about the events. I'm talking about literally, here's a side quest character, they are not a main character, and here's an interesting storyline around them. When is the last time they made that? Like, in all honesty, yes, literally, people are saying Kami North. When was Kami North? That was a year ago, dude. It's been like a full calendar year. This is the last time ZZZ has done any meaningful side quests. They tried to kind of replace these side quest stuff with temple management. If you remember when 2.0 launched, you had to collect items and then forge them, and then you would sell that to people in Wi-Fi. Now, that's interesting, but those are not meaningful side quests. And you can see what they did with temple management. They basically gutted it and said, yeah, people did not like this. Post-production Yojimbo Blade here. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to something I thought the story did that was pretty cool. After I finished playing the event story, that stream, the next day I loaded up and I actually did some more stuff. Turns out they actually had some interesting dialogue with another idol group called the Forecasters. I'm pretty sure this is a reference to some like idol or Vocaloid group of some sort. And while there weren't any missions or like side quests, I like that. I think that's neat. I will give credit where credit is due. Now, I wish there was like a mission or like something else to do than just here's a couple text boxes and taking pictures. But I do like that they went through the effort of like setting up taking pictures with these people. That's neat. That's cool. I wish there was more like gameplay interaction involved with it. And as it turns out, taking on these kind of commissions and active nuclear radiation war zones gives us an excuse to come into contact with a wide cast of characters. Characters we normally would never interact with. Sometimes shady people, sometimes heroes of justice. Because as it turns out, people have different reasons for wanting to go into nuclear radiation war zones. It also puts our characters in dangerous, but safe situations. We are not in an immediate threat, but the characters around us might be. And because we were putting other characters in danger to help us on these missions, you can form emotional attachments with those other characters. It turns out, for storytelling, having a character just say, oh my gosh, you're incredible and amazing, I love you so much, makes a lot more sense when you are guiding them through a nuclear radiation war zone and helping them not die.
Thank goodness you're here, manager, or else I'd be totally lost.
It's almost like navigating a hollow is difficult and challenging. If only we could show that in some way, shape, or form. Instead of just, here's the stairs that are right next to you. It's like, man, if only there was a way to like show the players that like navigating hollows was important and challenging. Nah, that's crazy. They wouldn't do that. Nah, that wouldn't be good. Who would want to play that? Another thing TV mode can be good at doing is pacing. Organizing when and where combat happens means the devs and writers can organize those key moments separately. You don't always have to be running around in the open world. You can section off these high impact moments of combat here and here and here. And so we're going to create a natural flow to that. Some rising action and climax with action combat make a lot more sense. It's kind of awkward when you're in the action combat stuff and you find a group of mob enemies that don't really matter. It's like, oh, you're a mild annoyance. Get out of the way. Whereas in the story mode, you can ramp that up to be, oh my gosh, we're being ambushed by ethereals. Whereas in game, it's like, oh, the enemies just magically appeared out of nowhere. But in TV mode, because we're more separated from that, we don't see the ethereals magically appearing. We can see them in a distance. They're like, oh, they're over there in the distance. I can see them. I know where they are. I am choosing to go into active combat with them. It also makes the overall gameplay less stressful and demanding. And that's because players can go at their own speed until combat occurs. In TV mode, you can go as fast or as slow as you want to. If you want to go really quickly, you can. If you want to take your time, explore some stuff, you can also do that. You can still have some really good story beats and character moments. I think it's weird to think that, oh, well, you can't interact with characters in TV mode. Dude, what are you talking about? I'll talk about Wither Domain a bit later, but yeah, that does have some character moments that I think are interesting that they don't really do anymore. And these kind of story moments make sense when the game's main way of telling the story is a visual novel. I've always thought it was weird that the game mostly transitions to characters talking during action combat exploration stuff, because that's not the usual type of storytelling. Because in those modes, you as the player kind of want to go as fast as possible. but every time I find myself having to slow down so I don't outrun the story. And that sounds insane.
Whoa, so many monsters!
Did I skip past her telling me the rest of the story because I got into the fight? In TV mode, hey, this dialogue session needs to take a bit longer. Well, you can say the player needs to go a bit further so that way they don't jump past all the dialogue. Another cool aspect of TV mode is replayability. Again, this is assuming it's implemented well. TV mode has some extra rewards for finding secrets or for beating extra objectives. And it's also varied and visually engaging. They have a lot of in-game assets already built that are easy to recycle and can be used in different and interesting ways. If we go to our workbench, and we go to Hollow Codex, look at all this. Like, look at all this. This is all like animations already created. Look at all this cool stuff. This is already in the game. They already have the assets for this. They can reuse them. Like, it's fine because they can put them in different places and use them for different things. Like this time, this enemy might be Hollow Raiders based on the context. And in other scenes, oh my gosh, it's the baby ethereals. You gotta watch out. And other times, oh my gosh, it's the corrupted machines. We gotta be careful. It's like you can just reuse these animations for things. It's fine. And look, this looks kind of intimidating. This is part of that horror aspect I said. It's like, ooh, I'm closing in on the enemy. I know they're there, but I'm not quite sure what they are. And the cool thing about these animations is that they can occur frequently and you don't need to stage and manipulate 3D models. One of the worst things about the story since they removed a lot of the TV mode is that they've decided the best way to show the story is to have the characters in 3D space. And they can make that interesting. I'm not saying none of the stuff in 2.0 has worked. I'm just saying there are ways to make TV mode visually engaging and different each time you do it. You can't really do that in Lemnium Hollow. The point of Lemnium Hollow is that it's a hollow that does not change. So you can't have variety in that story. You can't explore Lemnium Hollow and it be completely different. That goes against the lore. The other reason why they have the lore say that hollows are constantly changing is so that they can have those little side missions of like, oh, where are we and what hollow? It's like, well, who cares? We're just in a random hollow in a random place. It doesn't really matter. Don't think too much about it. Like, that is a reason to use that kind of storytelling. So those are all cool aspects of how TV mode can be good. But how was TV mode implemented? Poorly. It was not implemented well at all. The devs did not make the necessary changes after beta feedback. From what I remember, beta testers told them, hey, these are some issues that we have with the story presentation in TV mode, and they did not really make those changes at all. Here are a list of some of the issues that were noticeable at launch. If you joined anytime after, I would say 1.6, you probably don't know what these issues are firsthand. The remote doesn't work. TV mode was on a client-side server. Or is that the other way around? Hold on. Am I crazy? I should know this off the top of my head. Sorry. It was server side. I need to change that. My goodness. My goodness. Pretend this says server side. It's a server side server. And that meant that anytime you pressed a button, you had to wait. And turns out there was a speed up option. It didn't work. At the launch of the game, they had a button that said, oh, you can speed up the stuff in TV mode. You pressed it and you would get some squiggly lines and nothing would change. It was the exact same. It was a lie. So overall, that meant the gameplay was really laggy and really sluggish. That's really annoying. That took up way too much time. Also, the Fitnessgram Pacer test. The keyword there is Pacer. The story puzzles were not very good, and they were pretty annoying to deal with. There were also hollow interactions with pretty lengthy animations. Now, that in itself is not a problem. As I said before, TV mode was already on the slower end, and these lengthy animations were like way too frequent. Oh my gosh, I just want to solve the puzzle. Stop showing me these animations. I know where the other door is. Just let me go there. And in some modes, in some story modes or some puzzles, there was a bit too much repeated, annoying dialogue. Now, some of you might think, what are you talking about? I don't remember that stuff exactly. Me neither. So here's an example. Oh, we need to find the switch and press it. Nope, nothing here. Not here either. Oh, there's the switch. Now we need to press it. All right, you pressed it. Now we can locate the next switch. Nope, nothing here. Shut up! Stop talking! Stop treating this game like Dora the Explorer! There are 4 directions, up, down, left, right. We have a giant map. This shows us where we can go. You don't need to baby us around. We got 4 directions. It's about the quality, not the quantity. In these specific instances, they were low quality background dialogue, and you wish they weren't. Also, the game is on commercial. We have to wait for the commercial to end. Most action combat gameplay was locked behind TV mode. For some missions, there would be a puzzle that takes 10 or more minutes-ish, and it would end off by having you fight a group of ethereals. So like, oh, here's the big bad boss causing this issue. Let's beat them up and continue on. Okay, that's fine. But here's the problem. Lots of fights meant a lot of loading screens. For those who forgot, the loading screens to enter combat were separated from the modes to enter TV mode. The exception to this is shield defense and resource farming at the launch of the game, because those were available at the start of the game, but most casual players weren't really doing that. Most casual players weren't thinking about, oh boy, I love farming for Woodpecker Electro and I can't remember what the defense set is off the top of my head. No one uses it. Oh, Soul Rock. Yes, it's Soul Rock. Thank you, chat. This is not to say shield defense and resource farming are bad. It's just that those are modes that most players don't care about until they get hooked on the game. But they don't really have a chance to get hooked on the game with how the action combat is locked behind these lengthy sections in TV mode that take too long. Finally, the as seen on TV scams. Come play with this brand new agent. Ooh, exciting. Exciting combat for only 12 payments of $39.99 or something. I don't know. So you see the ad, you say, wow, this agent, they look really cool. I want to pull for them. And then, wow, I got them. That's great. Where can I use them? What can I do with them? Nothing. You just explore halls until you run into enemies. What the heck? I didn't pull Ellen so I could run around in TV mode. I pulled Ellen so I could beat up bad guys. What is this TV mode getting in the way for? Get it out. Let me fight some things. Reminder, launch Zenless did not give players a lot of things to do with their agents. Yeah, you could get their supports, you could get the trust events with them, but you couldn't walk around as them. You couldn't say, hey, let's hang out, let's go do some stuff. Like, there wasn't things you could do with agents. Sorry, there were things you could do with agents. There was not enough things you could do with agents. And that was really annoying. The game set up a lot of these characters that you really want to be invested in and hang out with. And then the game didn't really give you a lot of opportunities to hang out with them. Shield defense, farming for resources, those still existed. But when you were playing the story of the game, you kind of wanted to play with those agents. And you really couldn't most of the time. The Midnight Channel. Wither Domain was interesting. It was non-story, non-endgame, repetitive, casual content gameplay. Wither Domain was perfect for the casual audience. This is the part where you had special interactions with agents.
If you need it, buy it. As long as you have the means.
If you had certain agents in your team and you walked into an event, you might have a specific dialogue option that says, hey, because Ambi is part of the defense force or a former defense force person, she has special dialogue when dealing with the military that lets you get different rewards. Like, oh, that's neat. That's interesting. It's saying, hey, you brought this agent into this event. Here's a little something to spice it up. Wither Domain had a lot of reap value. It was a roguelike, and you could make it as challenging as you wanted it to be. If you wanted to make it really easy, you could. If you wanted to make it really hard, you could do that. Wither Domain is really engaging. It also gives players a taste of the game to see if they enjoy some of that team building, some of those lore, some of that action combat. It's like, oh, this character had this specific interaction. Maybe I would like to invest in them. Oh, maybe these two characters, they work together because I have to pick whatever random agents I have. Let me see if these agents work together. Oh, now that I have this team of 3, another agent's wanting to know if they can join. Well, who would I side out? I wonder how they play. Do I need to swap out? That's all really cool, and we don't get that anymore. However, as good as Wither Domain was, it had all the issues of regular TV mode. It was kind of laggy. The loading screens in between fights was very noticeable. I don't want to say it took too long as a necessarily bad thing. It segmented the action combat in ways I think that made it a bit too tedious to really enjoy. It doesn't need to have less combat, it just needed to be a bit snappier, a bit quicker. And now for TV mode, we need to rewire the antenna. Eventually, the devs did iron out a lot of the kinks in TV mode gameplay. They had the fast forward button now actually works. Now if you put on the fast forward mode, it works. Movement feels a lot snappier. They fixed the server issues, I think. It's client side and not server side anymore. So when you press right, you go immediately to the right. That means you can go as quick or as slow as you want to. You can go at your own pace. And later additions shortened or removed some of the excess or redundant animations, some of those text bosses that you don't need anymore, or some of those prompts that are a bit like, hey, do you want to do this thing? It's like, yes, I want to do this thing. Are you sure you want to? Yes, I'm sure I want to do this. So that's all great. Unfortunately, the last event, Arpeggio Fault, Archipelago, I never looked this up to double check how it's spelled. It wasn't Arpeggio, that was the villain in Sly Cooper 2. I want to say it was Archipelago Fault, but that's an island. I should have looked this up to confirm, but I think it's funnier if I misspelled it. Unfortunately, we got the canceled shows. After lots of feedback from players, the devs decided maybe we should remove TV mode from the game. First from the story, and then pretty much all together. And since they removed it, there's really hasn't been any new content that uses the H.D.D system anymore. It's still there as like a carryover from Season 1, but none of the Season 2 stuff uses the H.D.D mode. Except they introduced quality of life features. What are those quality of life features? Well, they help players by letting them not play the game. That's my favorite part of games, is when the devs say, hey, we are introducing quality of life features so you can enjoy playing the game. As part of these features, here are things so you don't have to play the game. I am okay with them giving the, hey, you can skip farming these very specific missions in Withered Domain, but I don't like the, hey, you can just skip playing Withered Domain. I think that's lame. Withered Domain's great and fun. Why are you encouraging players to not play the game? That's boring. Years of development wasted. So what is the aftermath of all of this? Well, it turns out it was really good. Removing TV mode saved the game. The game was in a dire position, and so they removed it. And they removed it at a perfect time. A ton of people joined in version 1.4, and at that time, it was the right call. TV mode was just not implemented well, and so they removed it. Removing TV mode saved the game, but it did not make the game a better product. I'm going to take some time explaining this a bit later. In version 2, the game has given us no new commissions, but they sort of tried. You could have requests from NPCs for the temple management mode where you create products from the stuff you collected from the hollows. That's theoretically interesting, but I don't think it was implemented in an interesting way. There have been no new commissions that are really relevant, no new story gameplay replayability. No matter what you think about the 1.x story, you can always go back and replay that story exactly the same way. In Season 2, you cannot replay the story. Oh, but you can go into the tapes to replay the dialogue conversations. Wow, that's fantastic. Can I replay the moment where Orphe and Magus fight the villain of 2.2? Can I go replay that scene? Have that cool fight happen again? Have that interactive cutscene? Can I go replay that again? No. Start a brand new account. Start from the beginning. In Season 1, you can go back and replay everything. You can't do that in Season 2. I know some people rag on Season 2 for having the worst story. It's like, okay, fine, but I wish I could replay that story. I have another project in the works, and that involves me having to go back and replay the story. But it's like, well, I can't replay the story because I don't want to take the time to start a brand new account and go through everything. It's like, yeah, it's cool that they added this interactive cutscene with Orphe and the villain. And then what's great is that you can never experience that again. It's just gone. It's like, nope, you had that for one chance. Now it's gone. Can't get it. Bye. I don't know if this is correct. I think you can replay the Seeds story, maybe? I don't remember. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head if you can replay like the combat scenes in Seeds story. Overall, I would argue there was not enough casual coded content in the end game. And by end game, I mean, once you've beaten the story, what is there to do? Oh, you want to play Deadly Assault and Shield Defense? No. Okay. You want to manage the temple? No. Oh, If only there was like something to like engage the players and like maybe have a puzzle, maybe have some like interactive experiences with some characters. You get agent story, you get main story, and that's it. Now, for the record, there is still stuff to do. You could hang out with agents. You could do a lot more stuff with agents than you could before in the overworld. Perfectly fine. Where can I use these agents? Well, you use them in Lost Void, which is the weather domain replacement, and then you use them in Deadly Assault and Shiyu Defense. And if you don't like those modes, then too bad. Overall, the writing, the story, the pacing has been weaker. Now, that's not necessarily a problem with getting rid of TV mode. In version 1.2, which is the Tour de Inferno, that also didn't have TV mode. Tour de Inferno did not have TV mode, and Tour de Inferno is probably the best story in the game. So I am not arguing that the story is bad because they took away TV mode. People argue, oh, now that TV mode's gone, the story will be better. The writing will be better now that TV mode is gone. That's not true. Turns out the writing can be not good. It can be poorly paced with or without TV mode. Like, TV mode is not the issue with the writing of the game. So now that we're in the aftermath, let's ask a question. Think about the people who were vocally against TV mode, who argue that the game would be better or that they would play the game if they got rid of TV mode. Think about those players right now. How many of those players actively play the game? The people who hated TV mode said, oh man, the game would be so much better if it was gone. Are they still playing? Where are they? I don't know a single person who said, yo, I hate TV mode, I wish they removed it, and is still actively playing the game. Where do they go? By actively playing the game, if you are logging in once every 3 months and you skip all the story, it's like, okay, are you playing the game? I guess. But like, if you're skipping all the story, you're logging in once every 3 months, you're not an active player. You're not. Again, don't send hate to anyone. I'm not trying to accuse anyone specifically. Just keep it all here. But just think about, like, hey, these players who really hated TV mode, are they still playing? And I think the answer is not many. Like, if players joined in 1.4 because they thought Miyabi was cool, are they still playing in 2.5 now that Miyabi is less cool? I'm not saying those players don't exist. I'm just saying, I don't think there's a large audience of players that hated TV mode and then said, oh yes, I love Zenless now. What Zenless is right now is wonderful and amazing. I don't think those players exist. Those exist, but they are very, very small. So for my own personal feelings about this issue, I would argue that ultimately Zenless catered to an audience that doesn't play the game. And this is not in an elitist way, like, oh, you're not playing the game like I want you to play it. No, I mean, literally, they don't play the game. Or maybe they play the game, but they don't enjoy the game. Pretty sure there are some players who hate to play the game because they feel obligated to. That's weird. Don't hate play the game. However, TV mode feels really smooth now. So this begs the question, if TV mode came back, who would complain? This is not a trick question. If TV mode were to come back, who would complain about it? Let's imagine for a bit. ZZZ will do an event with TV mode eventually. It will come back in some way, shape, or form as a sort of a beta test to gauge whether or not the players who actively play the game actually like this mode, or if it's just something that's people have forgotten about. Like, people don't want to engage with this. That's fine. They are going to test it out, see what the feeling is. And remember, they already have all of the assets for this. They don't need to make something brand new. They just need to use what they already have. And for the players who hated Zenless when it had TV mode, do they still play? If they do, would they care about a TV mode event? If you're a player who doesn't care about the rhythm game Angels of Delusion event, you know what you can do? You just don't play it. If you hate TV mode, you're not going to play it. And for the players who hate the current lack of content or the quality of the writing, don't you think they would like appreciate a change of pace? Even if it's not better, if it's slightly different, don't you think they would find that to be slightly more interesting? Now, obviously I want it to be good. I don't want it to be just okay, but I would like a little change of pace every now and then. A little bit of back to basics with the lessons the devs have learned. Realistically, would anyone really quit the game if TV mode came back for a side event or for a couple weeks? I did not hear anyone complain about, oh my gosh, I'm going to quit the game because they brought in co-op. If you didn't like the co-op event, you didn't play it. That's it. Oh, co-op exists. That's cool. I'm not interested. That's it. Are people going to boycott the game if, oh my gosh, an optional mode that I don't like? We have to kill the game now. Like, no, dude, don't play it. They'll know how many players played it or not. Don't play it. I highly doubt anything will actually happen. I highly doubt there's going to be a meaningful movement of players who collectively boycott the game because, oh my gosh, there's a side event where players can play TV mode. We need to bring back the discussion of, oh my gosh, Zenless is dying or something. It's like, no, dude, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's going to happen. Personally, I would rather have a weak TV mode event than none at all. Because if we have one, then I can actually give direct feedback when they ask for it on how to improve it. Here's a reality check. There was a recent article written by a really good writer who talked about why fighting games have a product design issue. If you heard me mention this earlier, I said Zenless has not become a better product since they made these changes. That was a very intentional word choice. I'm not saying it has become a worse game. I'm saying it has not improved as a product to convince players to play the game. It's since around 2.x-ish. And if you want to go read this article, I will post it down in when I publish this video, I will link it below. It's a really interesting read. What is Zenless's largest target audience? It's casual players. As much as people want to disagree with this, your largest audience of players are casual players. The VA for Ambi made a post recently. I love them so much, I'm coming back for them specifically. The VA for the title character of the game says they will come back to play the game because of these characters. And this is to go to my next point. This game makes way more money by selling compelling characters and stories than it does by selling gameplay. Now let's compare some of those players and characters. For some reason, Kete the 7th has made it his mission to Mindscape 6 every character that he likes. One of those characters that he has said for a long time has been Nongong Yu. Now I want to ask you a question. Did he say he was going to Mindscape 6 Nongong Yu because, oh my gosh, her gameplay is so good? Did he say, oh my gosh, she has this really cool ultimate animation cancel that I can use in a really cool way that compels me to get her Mindscape 6 to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this game? No, he's not doing that. He said, dude, I like this character. I'm going to spend money on it. That's it. That's the end. It has nothing to do with the gameplay. My good pal Rezi. If you know Rezi, you know he's a Billy main. I also know that he Mindscape 6 Ye Xiongguang. In no world does a Billy main think Ye Xiongguang has actively enjoyable gameplay. You know why he got her Mindscape 6? It's because she's a waifu. That's it. That's the only reason. He's not saying, oh my gosh, I love having invincible, infinite animations that make me not have to interact with enemies. He's not saying that. He's saying, hey, I like that character. I'm going to spend money on it. That's it. It has nothing to do with the gameplay. Maybe he shouldn't say nothing. It has very little to do with the gameplay. I'll talk about myself. You know why I pulled for Soldier Zero Ambi? I didn't pull for her because of the gameplay. When I used her, I said, yo, you know what? This gameplay, this feels clunky. She can't dodge out of stuff. She doesn't feel good. You know why I pulled for her? Because I like the character. That's it. That's the reason. I like the character, so I pulled for them. It's not about gameplay. This idea that like, oh my gosh, if the gameplay isn't cool and interesting, then players won't buy that. That's not true. That's just not true. If the players don't care about your character, it doesn't matter if their gameplay is interesting. They don't care about the character. Age. I don't know how to say her. It's A-G-E-K-K. Ejek. People call her Age. I'll just say Age. She pulled for Banyue. Banyue, you know who Banyue was designed for? Banyue was designed for fighting game players, for the hardcore end game players. That's not who Age is. Age isn't that kind of player. You think she's doing super combos with Banyue? No, she said, dude, this guy's hot, I'm gonna pull for him. That's it. That's the reason. It's not gameplay. I'm going insane over here, trying to convince people that characters are not pulled for their gameplay specifically. And because it's not based on gameplay, why don't the devs create decent replayable content for these casual players? Jay Blitz is gonna be happy. We're talking about Nongong Yu next. Her kit could literally say, I reduced the team's damage by 50%. That could be a line of text in her kit. She could have the most boring, most abysmal, most infuriating gameplay imaginable. She could feel awful to play. Guess what? A ton of people will still pull for her. You know why? Because they don't care about her gameplay. They think she's a neat character, that she looks interesting, that she has an interesting personality. That's it. That's the reason. Even if Non-Gong was an A rank? Yes! A lot of players who pulled on Lucia's banner was because I want Monato. That's the reason. They were pulling for Lucia. I don't know who this random goat chick is. I want Monato. He's right there. Overall, characters need to have an overall design. This includes visuals, their design, their thematics, whether in gameplay or their narrative, in their story, etc., that interests and appeals to their target audience. I'm not saying a character should appeal to everyone. That's impossible and that's boring. But characters should appeal to target demographics. And ZZZ has had a lot more agent interactions. And ZZZ already has plenty of action combat. We are oversaturated with action combat at this point. Why are we ignoring how TV mode can play a role in getting players to engage with the game in a different way that is still in-game with the characters they already have, with the in-game elements that are already there? Here's my final argument about this. The main reason Zenless players have FOMO is because the devs have designed power creep that requires careful, considerate spending. Like, oh, you want to make sure you spend your money wisely because you don't want to pull a dud character. That's how people talk about it. And they don't need to do that. I am not saying things shouldn't get challenging for players. That's weird. I'm not saying we should go back to season 1 launch Zenless power levels. No, that's bizarre. But how does power creep improve the game as a product for consumers? Players are going to pull for Non-Gong Yu because they like her character. They're going to make so much more money off of those people who love the Angels of Delusion than the players who are like, oh yes, I can get 5,000 more score in Deadly Assault with this combination than with this. That incentivizes me to Mindscape 6's. No, they're not thinking that. They're thinking, man, this character looks cool. I want to play them. They're not the ones actively playing endgame. They're like, man, I think this character's neat and cool. That's it. So, quick recap. TV mode had a real, tangible, meaning potential for storytelling and world building. But that potential was undermined by its rampant flaws and were only fixed much later on. And many of those issues can be fixed or they have been fixed. And we already have lots of combat gameplay readily available. And the mode itself is much quicker now. In conclusion, TV mode is ready for a comeback. And I'll be eager to see it. Before you go, I want to challenge you in the audience and you in the live chat right now. Pick a random chapter for chapter 1 or chapter 2. Pick a random exploration mission. Try it out. Do it again. See how it feels. If you've been a player since about around launch to 1.4, you probably don't remember this stuff. Try it out. See how it feels. I was pleasantly surprised when I tried it and I felt a bit nostalgic. I thought, oh dude, I remember this part of the game. This was fun now. It's not sluggish. Did I not do this slide? What? I have one more slide that's supposed to be here. What? It's not showing up on the screen. Why is that the case? Chat, comment about your experiences and your thoughts. Subscribe if you feel like it. If you feel inclined, you can become a sponsor by becoming a YouTube member. Don't feel obligated to do that, by the way. Shoutouts to my super sponsors. I Love My PC, Tactica, and SuperBros64. Thank you all so much. My name is Yojimbo Blade, and I hope you have a blessed day. See you soon. I'm losing it.
So scary.
What? What's scary? The frog band? I want to hear the frog. Can you hear the froggy song? Yes, I hear the froggy song. Ribbity, 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 ribbity. I'm going insane.